What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I'm bringing an update to one of my most favourite decks around, and today is the turn of Swordsoul. Now, with Swordsoul, they haven't really received much new support, so really all the update is going to be is how it adapts for the current format, what cards you might decide to play. Now these are going to be Swordsoul Tenyi. There are a couple of other different variants that you could play around with if you wanted to, like the Ryugis. I still feel that this is one of the better ways to help you pick a field apart, as the Tenyis give you a little bit more interaction with your opponent, and it also means that you can kind of play around certain particular hand traps without giving your opponent huge advantage with stuff like the Fluolos and the Perulias, but they are something you need to be very, very careful of. Obviously, if they Perulia you, you want to make sure you don't utilize the Tenyis from the hand, and that will shift your strategy a little bit more. And if they utilize Fluolos on you, that's when you want to shift as a bit more of a control style, which is why I've got some breakers in here, as well as the ability that those breakers can be set and utilized during my opponent's turn. So, with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. I'm going to take you through the profile, show you what we've got, explain why we've got it, and then talk about what changes and the strategy you might want to adapt throughout this particular format. So what will never change, in my opinion, is the lineup of the Swordsoul monsters, with the Moyis always being at 3. This is your ideal Swordsoul monster, and what you need to remember about the Swordsoul is, unfortunately, they are all relatively 2-card combos, because they all need to either reveal another worm, discard a worm, or banish a worm from the graveyard, so they're always going to need that additional card to do something with, and that's where cards like Forbidden Droplet can really come into play. So 3 Moyi, backed up by 3 Long One. Now, unfortunately, the biggest loss of this particular deck, unless it changes on the Forbidden and Limited list, which I find it hard to actually happen, is the fact that we don't have Baron. When we had access to Baron, this gave us the ability to set up a Omni Negate to protect us from the Biru in order to help us build the rest of our field, whereas now we don't have that. We still have a way to protect from the Biru, but it's a little bit riskier to get to, and it can lead us in just below 5 summons, but you'll pretty much have to play through stuff like Drownlock Bird, Fluoros, and of course, Ash Blossom as well. Then one that kind of divides some of the players around there is whether you're going to be playing 1 or 2 Tyre. I still like Tyre, and specifically because I'm playing Forbidden Droplet in the main deck, it kind of gives me a little bit more consistency to get a worm to the graveyard to then utilize Tyre's effect. I feel that Tyre is probably one of the better Swordsoul monsters, and before everyone goes crazy on that one, the reason that I like Tyre a little bit more once you already have the setup is that it gives you that ability to banish from the graveyard, as well as then act as a Foolish Burial. It gets you into your level 8 synchro plays, and it then just allows you to start slowly picking apart your opponent. So it's one of the ones that's probably your more ideal normal summon in comparison to Moyi. As Moyi, you start to reveal a bit more information, and I feel that utilizing Forbidden Droplet in the main deck is what's going to give you the edge with Tyre above all else. Now, if you were to play the Ryuji version, you can actually cut Tyre down to 1. I know some people also play Tyre at 1 in general, but I still really like it, and it's one of the ones that in a grind game it can really be helpful, but it's also one of the ones that if I hard open it, as long as I have the ability to get a worm to the graveyard, which with the Tenyis and of course Droplet is a little bit easier to do, it gives me a lot more to play for. And then we are on 3 Incredible Ecclesia the Virtuous. Part of me just really wanted to show off this card. I love the alt arts that we've received. My only disappointment with alt arts is the fact that they only come as quarter centuries, but then the benefit is they're not crazy expensive if you look in the right place, and I was really kind of cool to upgrade this. And what I love about the most recent alt arts that we received is they all kind of tell a story. That's what I like about it so much more, is that they're all kind of, they're more in action, they're more like a scene from something going on rather than like a static pose, which is absolutely fine. I just like that it tells a little bit more. Now, the reason we're playing 3 Incredible Ecclesia, not that I'm choosing for this deck to go second. Like, at the end of the day, if I win the dice roll, I'm still going to choose to go first, as I still feel that's the strongest way that Swordsouls can operate. But I have the balance in the main deck that should I go second, I have cards like Fluoros, I have cards like Perulia, like Droplet, like Talons, and of course the Incredible Ecclesia, which comes into its own when it goes second, because your opponent needs to control more monsters than you do for you to be able to special summon it, and obviously if you go first, that's never really going to happen. That being said, it's still one of your great starters, because this can still act as a 4th, 5th, and 6th copy of Moyi. It can still technically act as more copies of Tyre, but again, the issue with that one is you need to get that worm set up. Whereas with Moyi, you still need just to have the worm in the hand. So if you were to just open up this, and then let's say a Long One, for example, you'd go into a Incredible Ecclesia, get you into Moyi, reveal the Long One, draw a card, move your spawn a token, and then obviously when you synchro it off, you'll draw a card, and that hopefully unlocks your hand a little bit more. And then for the last kind of Swordsoul monster we play is 3 tokens. Obviously this isn't in the main deck, but you know, every time I do a Swordsoul profile, I'll always show these tokens off. They think they're absolutely amazing. I got these from like Etsy. They're really kind of cool. I love the full art aspects of them. And I specifically made sure there was a long one version, a tire version, and a Moyi version. The only one I regret not having is a blackout version, because when you banish blackout, you can spawn a token, but you know. So that's it for the Swordsoul monsters. I'll carry on with the Swordsoul spells, and then we'll move into the Tenyis themselves. So for the spells, of course, free emergence, so allow you to get any of your Swordsoul monsters. So now with the Incredible Ecclesia, we have 6 versions of Moyi. We now have 9 versions of Moyi, but it kind of gives you a little bit more. You do need to be a bit careful to draw on Lockbird, but that's something you need to keep in mind at all times. The one blackout, sometimes I bounce between 1 and 2 depending on what mood I'm in. I don't mind hard opening up the blackout, because then it means my search for my Yugioh can be something a little bit more effective for me to help me like extend my combos more. But more times than not, you probably want to go for the blackout, and I just love how control orientated it is. Being able to utilize this. And the other benefit of hard opening this is you can actually banish this from the deck with your Yugioh, and then that would then allow you to spawn a token, which is really helpful. So that's it for the Swordsoul specific spells. We aren't playing the revival spell. You can do if you want to. It's one of them ones that again comes down to personal preference. Some people like to play it, some people don't. It's just one that I'm trialing without, because I've gone with a heavier lineup for the Tenyis. Speaking of the Tenyis, I'm on 3 Saruya. Again, this is a card that I bounce back and forth between 2 and 3. I just absolutely love this card. I think it's a great addition for what the Tenyis were able to offer the Swordsoul strategy. And this one, just because it's the more recent one, if you control a worm monster or a face-up non-effect monster, you get to special on this card from the hand. The benefit of something like that is it's a level 4 tuner. So more times than not, when you are playing Swordsouls, it would usually be, okay, cool, normal summon Moyi, reveal a Tenyi, reveal a worm in the hand, spawn a token. More times than not, your Moyi would always be bait, the exact same for your tire, of an Imperm or an Availer. With the ability of Saruya, that now comes into play because your tokens are your tuners, that when they happen, usually your opponent will be like, yep, cool, I've shut off your access to your synchro plays, but now we can go, okay, cool, special summon down Saruya, and then continue to make our synchro plays. If that wasn't enough, as long as it is sent to the graveyard as material for a worm synchro, you get to special summon a Tenyi link monster from the extra deck. It can't be used as link material, and then you lose life points equal to its link rate in times 1,000. So that will give you access to get a non-effect monster on the field with monks, and then that starts opening up all of your banish effects of your Tenyis, which is really important. Or you can jump straight into a shaman to help you revive, or probably more commonly, you're going to be going into the Sashara, which gives you the ability to start spawning tokens, but you just take the most life point damage when you do something like that. So yeah, I think Saruya is probably like one of the best additions we've received in a long, long time. Not only just for the Tenyi strategy, but for the Swordsoul strategy and even worm strategies in general. We're on 3 Ashuna, obviously gets you direct access to a Tenyi from the deck. This is the one you need to be a little bit careful of, because you'll banish it to activate the effect, and that's probably the point where if you're facing this deck or your opponent knows this deck, they will then use Fluoros, and then they're going to guarantee a draw off you. 2 Adhara. Backed up by 2 Vishuddha. Obviously, if you want to focus on going second more, you probably consider playing Vishuddha at 3, because hard seeing a Vishuddha is still one of your best ways to out an opponent's field, because you either special on it to the field, which is great what you want to do, you want to link it off into the monk, and then you banish the Vishuddha from the graveyard to target card and then return it. At those particular points of interaction, you haven't used a normal summon, you haven't even used a Swordsoul monster, and you're already trying to clear out a floodgate, or you're trying to clear out a monster that might cause you issues. Something like a Makumo would then force your opponent to try and tribute it off and revive it, or of course you would then be able to force out a detonator, just cards like that that can be really, really helpful for you. And the one is Shafana. Again, some people like love and hate this card. I still think it's one of the ones that as a one-off, it's not that bad to utilize. It's one of the ones that if they do decide to destroy a monk and you've got this in your hand or grave, it then gives you the ability to revive it, revive the monk, and then obviously utilize the Shafana as well. So it kind of gives you a bit of a surprise factor that a lot of people like don't think about, but entirely up to you. You can cut the deck down to 40 cards if you wanted to take it out. The last worm that we are playing is, of course, Protoss. This is going to be one of your major win cons for this deck. Being able to go second is going to be a little bit more effective if you do need to enter in the grind state. Because remember, this is still a 2500 monster that could, in theory, neutralize whatever your opponent has on the field. With the current meta right now, when you look at Malices and you look at Ryzeals, you can call Dark, destroy all the Darks on the field, which you're going to be playing less of, because Light is probably your more main focused card you're going to end your field with. Clear that off, Protoss will stay. Your opponent can't summon Darks back, which means they can't loop the Makumo back. The only thing that they'll be left with would be a Detonator. It's a complete auto win against Malice, because then they can't access any of their Malice monsters because they're all going to be Darks. It is still just an incredibly good win con for first or second. Obviously going first, it's a shutout as long as you know what your opponent is playing. Going second is also going to be a bit of a shutout if you're able to get to it. Because it's one of them ones that as long as you can get your different attributes in the graveyard, which through the Tenyis is very easy to do, you then call the Protoss, activate it. Calling Dark being itself completely shuts your opponent down. So even going first, if you want to blind call Dark, it still could be very, very useful for you. And then for the technical Tenyi spell cards, we've got the 1 Heavenly Dragon Cycle, the 1 Vessel, and the 1 Tenyi Infinity. Obviously, the idea behind these ones is you could play the other Tenyi Infinity, the Tenyi field spell if you wanted to. Honestly, I think this is better for a side deck option, and that's when you can start bringing in other field spells. Because what a lot of people forget about this is during the end phase, you send this card to the grave, and if you do, you place a Flawless Perfection from the deck or grave face onto your field zone, which is really, really important. And on activation, you get to grab a Vessel or a Heavenly Dragon Cycle. So it's really kind of cool to then give you that ability to utilize the Flawless Perfection, which a lot of people won't remember and won't really kind of understand how it interacts with your opponent, which can be really useful for you, but you can adapt to different field spells if you wanted to as well. The Vessel and the Heavenly Dragon Cycle, the fact that they're easily searchable for Tenyi Infinity just lets you extend that a little bit more. And then we're also on 2 Pot of Desires. Like, you don't have to play this card, but we're playing like a lot of 3-ofs. There's not really a massive risk of when you activate this of what you could lose. So it's kind of one of the ones that as you make through your plays, it's more of a win more or an act of desperation. And what I mean by that is when you activate Pot of Desires, it's probably going to be either at the start of the turn when you haven't got enough cards to make your turn playable, or after you've been interacted on something like a Mogi and you don't have an extender, you're activating Pot of Desires to search for that extender. Or you've gone through all of your Tenyis, which is really effective to kind of pick an opponent's field apart or move your plays forward, and then you're activating Pot of Desires to search you out for a breaker or something that can allow you to interact with your opponent a little bit more in depth. You can cut this out completely, and that's when more hand traps will come into play. But for me, I decided to go with the most effective cards right now because, and this is a very valid point that was brought up to me, like, some hand traps, like trading 1 for 1 with hand traps just isn't good enough right now in this current format. Like an Ash, yeah, it's okay, but your opponent's probably going to be playing through it. Same for the Imperm, same for the Veiler. So you want to be looking at like Floodgate-esque cards when you're looking at like the Fluoros, the Perulias, the Meowesses sometimes in specific environments, and then of course Drawn Lockbirds, which is why we are going with 3 Fluoros, 2 Perulia. You can play 3 if you want to, entirely up to you. If your environment is going to be more Mitsurugi and more Vanquish Soul, I'd probably actually go more for Perulia, so I'd go 3 Perulias, 2 Fluoros, or you could side some of these in, it really is up to you. I'm then main decking 3 Forbidden Droplet and 1 Triple Tactic Talents. Quite standard on these ones, really. I like the idea of Forbidden Droplet right now, especially when your opponent brings back a Makumo and then tries to Raigeki your field. And Raigeki in your field can be very, very damaging. If you're then able to go, okay, activate Droplet to negate it, that can be very, very helpful for you. So that's it for the entire main deck. Now to move on to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, I'm only playing 2 Monks with the 1 Shaman and the 1 Shashara. You can play 3 Monks if you want to for a really, really long grind game. In place of the 3rd Monk, I went with a Typhon. Now, I know Typhon can conflict with you sometimes, but you'll use a little bit of common sense, and you're only going to make Typhon if they've interacted with you like so much. But that's where stuff like your Vishuda can really come into play, and you need to make sure you don't Wormlock yourself, which you do off the back of the Shafara, the Ashuna in the main deck. But the idea is that with the Typhon, it'll be one of the ones that you've gone Vishuda, return a Detonator, and you can't get rid of the Makumo, or you've returned the Makumo and you can't get rid of the Detonator. You just go into Typhon, that will then be able to return it, and then you've cleared the field off and you're able to try and play a little bit more. For the Synchros, we are on 1 of the Mula Adhara. So this is how you can start utilizing other field spells in the deck. So if it's Synchro summoned and 2 or more Wormholes in your graveyard and banishment, you get to add any field spell from the deck to the hand. So that's when you can start subbing out like your Tenyi Infinity. You can go for something like, what I quite like is in this current format is something like the Necro Valley. I think Necro Valley could be really good. It means they can't loop back the Makumo from the graveyard. It means Malice can't banish their cards from the graveyard with Bestials or anything like that. I think like that could be a really kind of cool side deck option. There is a way where you can work your way into a Spellcaster, and the way you would do that is you'd go into like Dart the Dark Charmer without Wormlocking yourself, and you search yourself out the Secret Village of the Spellcaster, which can be just as damaging because if a deck doesn't naturally play an Effect Veiler or a Dart the Dark Charmer themselves, they're going to struggle to start to utilize their spell cards. There are stuff like Summon Breaker that I think some people do also choose to play. I feel you'd probably like narrow down 1 field spell that's going to be effective for you, or you can go for 2 if you want to. But I feel it's one of the ones that they're going to be more of a Floodgate-esque card that you're going to be utilizing going second than you are going first. So you'd probably be better off siding that in when you know you're 100% going to be going first. 1 Draco Berserker, backed up by Yazi, Baxias, Chaofengs. So Chaofeng is one of your minimal outs to a Nibiru, because you make this with Baxia and then your Adhara, and obviously it means that you lock out your opponent of all light effects. So you've got Chaofeng to stop your opponent with lights, but then you've got Protoss that stops your opponent with darks as well. So you've got the balance of both. 2 Chi Xiao, one of the Quinlong, and then one of the Chenying. So these are your aggressors. Again, in place of the Typhon, if you want to, you've got the third Monk. You've also got access to Ice Jade Argerine if you wanted to go down that route. You could also play the Adamancipator Dragite. So there's a couple of different flex options on this one. Like, the extra decks are relatively the same. Like, I can't imagine any builds that wouldn't be playing this lineup of the Sword Souls. Some people won't play a Chow Feng. That's entirely up to you. So that's one flex option. I feel the Yazi, the Baxias, the Draco Berserkers, and the Mulo Adhara are all pretty staple. And then the Typhon's the only other questionable one that some people may or may not play. So you've got like 2 questionable flex spots, but honestly, I feel they're still worth playing. It just kind of comes down to the environment and what you're expecting and what you kind of fear facing more than not. So that's it for the entire profile. If you do have any questions at all, by all means, please put in the comments down below. I'm always happy to answer them where possible. But hopefully this has given you a bit of an insight. If you do have any kind of like thoughts and feedbacks as well, by all means, put in the comments. Swordsoul is just one of them decks that unfortunately I feel has kind of been slightly power crept. Yeah, I didn't want to go too far on that one, but like, it's kind of got everything back that it needed to. Like, the only thing it doesn't have from back in the day is the Baron. And even then, I just don't feel that the deck is to the level that it once was, unfortunately. But don't take anything away from it. It's still a very, very fun deck. Very, very kind of, I wouldn't say like fully casual deck, but it's definitely one of them ones that you're not going to be toppling the meta with, but you're definitely going to have great fun with it. And it's one of the ones that if you dust it off and take it to locals, you'll catch a lot of people off guard here and there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe. And of course, happy dueling.